I'm the problem. I'm too controlling. I can't let go. I'm just one of those people who has to do everything themselves. No one can do it as well as I can.
Hey squirrels, welcome to ADHD, where ADHD isn't some clinical diagnosis, it's just life. I'm AV, your always honest tour guide through this beautiful mess. Over here, we're not about fixing yourself. We're about figuring out how to actually enjoy your life as you are. So grab a snack and let's go.
I tried delegating. It didn't work. Squirrels, I hear that sentence a lot. And every single time I hear it, I roll my eyes. But every single time I hear it, I notice what comes right after it. Not out loud necessarily, but like underneath this quiet conclusion that the founder has already made about themselves. I'm the problem. I'm too controlling. I can't let go. I'm just one of those people who has to do everything themselves. No one can do it as well as I can. This is just the way it has to be. I need to stop you right there. Because that conclusion feels true. It makes complete sense given what happened, given your pattern, given who you are. But that's actually not what the evidence shows. Delegation didn't fail. You were handed a process with missing parts and told to make it work. Today, we're going to pull those missing parts apart. We're going to name them. We're going to understand them and show you exactly what happens to your business when they're absent. Because the consequences are specific and they're fixable. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, that's okay. When I say delegation, what I mean is asking for help. There's about 9,000 episodes about asking for help and what it means. But essentially, when you are delegating something, you need to ask for specific help from a specific person with a specific purpose to reach a specific goal. If you don't receive the outcome that you are looking for, often the conclusion is that you are a failure at delegating. That's the story most people will tell you about delegation failure. You're a control freak. You don't trust your team. You need to learn to let go. And I'm saying that in the vast majority of cases that I have seen, delegation doesn't fail because of trust. Once you've already tried to delegate, that was you taking a leap of faith. That was you trying to trust. It fails because 3 specific structural conditions were never in place before the handoff happened. And without all 3 of these elements, it does not matter how much you trust your team. The delegation will collapse every time. Sorry, I realize I'm yelling at you. I don't mean to yell at you. I'm just very passionate about this, okay? Your team isn't escalating everything because they're incapable. Your team is escalating everything because nobody told them where the team authority ends and where your authority as the founder begins. And guess what? That's your responsibility. And here is the part that hits ADHD founders especially hard. Building the infrastructure for delegation before you delegate requires sustained executive function. It requires planning. It requires sequencing. It requires documentation. It requires follow-through. All of the things that our brains find genuinely difficult without support. So what do? We skip it. Not because we're lazy, but because the cognitive cost of building the system feels enormous, and the task feels more urgent than the infrastructure. And it probably is more urgent. It's not more important necessarily, but it probably is on fire and therefore more urgent. And then the delegation fails. And instead of thinking to yourself, the infrastructure was missing, we think, I knew I couldn't do this. That is not a conclusion. It is a conclusion, but it's not a valid conclusion. That is ADHD tax coming back to bite you in the butt. Let's talk about what those 3 things are, what actually needs to exist before you hand anything off, okay? 3 conditions. Most founders have 0 going in. And delegation without all 3 is not delegation. It's a hope with a task attached. And the likelihood of the task being completed is slim to none. Condition 1 is ownership clarity. Someone owns this task fully, not helps with it, owns it. What does that mean? It means the outcome is theirs. Here's what usually happens instead, right? A task gets assigned, but the founder is still the one checking it, adjusting it. They're the ones who are ultimately responsible for it in the team's mind. The team member doesn't feel like they truly own it, so they don't act like it. The founder ends up doing the task twice. Once when they do it, once then they review it and redo it. Ownership without clarity is not delegation. It's a trap with someone else's name on it. And at the end of the day, it's the founder's way, often, of shirking responsibility. If it's both ignoring your responsibility and taking on too much responsibility, if that makes sense. You're doing both at the same time. You're giving up your responsibility because you delegated the task without clarity, which means that, like, it's their problem now, but not really. And you simultaneously kept too much responsibility because you handed it over without clarity. And at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong in your business, it comes back to you. Ownership clarity fixes that. Okay. The second condition 2, is decision rights. What the heck does that mean? It means who is allowed to make decisions here. The person who owns the task needs to know clearly and specifically what decisions they can make without coming back to you. Here's what happens without it, okay? A team member manages client communication. A client sends a question that's slightly outside the usual script. The team member doesn't know if they have the authority to answer it, so they escalate. The founder answers. Next week, it's the same thing. Different question, same escalation. Drip by drip, this is how the founder bottleneck gets built. Every decision without a defined owner flows upward, back to you. And suddenly your entire day is a queue of other people's uncertainty. You can't think about your own business because you're too busy running everyone else's decisions. And here's what that actually costs over time. 3 things. First, a growth ceiling. Your business can only grow as fast as you can personally process decisions. The more the business grows, the worse the bottleneck gets. More team, more clients, more decisions. Same single point of failure. The second is that exhaustion looks like productivity. And we spoke about this a little bit earlier. You are busy all day, answering things, solving things, moving things forward, but almost none of it is the work that builds the business. It is maintenance disguised as leadership. So you're busy, but you're busy just for the sake of being busy. You're a busy little bee. That doesn't help move the needle truly. That is not leadership truly. And the third cost is that your team stops trying. When a team learns that decisions always come back to the founder anyway, they stop making decisions. Why on earth would I keep making suggestions or keep making decisions that are going to be changed, that are going to be ignored? I'm just going to stop. So initiative in your company is going to atrophy. It's going to shrivel up and die. And the founder, frustrated by a team that cannot think for themselves, doesn't realize that they trained the team not to think for themselves by doing the thinking for everyone. This is not a team competence problem. This is what happens when ownership clarity and decision rights are missing. The bottleneck is the inevitable output of undefined structure. And then the team isn't doing what we want them to do. We get frustrated with them and we fire people, and then we hire new people and we have the same problems. Why? The problem was never the team in the first place. Okay? So our first 2 conditions for success in delegation. The first one was ownership clarity. The second is decision rights. And the third, condition 3, escalation paths. Okay? Even with ownership and decision rights in place, some things genuinely need to come back to you as the founder. That's fine. What is not fine is having no structure for when and how that happens. Without a defined escalation path, everything escalates. You get a Slack message at 9 p.m., a panic call on a Friday, a message for an FYI, a thread of 40 pings about something that needed a 5-minute conversation 3 days ago. An escalation path says, here is the situation in which you come back to me. Here is how you flag it. Here is when I will respond. It makes the interruptions intentional instead of constant. And remember, as a person with ADHD, as a founder with ADHD, minimizing those interruptions is key to keeping your focus where it needs to be. Okay. Ownership clarity, decision rights, and escalation paths. Those are the O and D pillars of the boundaries framework. As always, our frameworks spell out what we're working on. Boundaries, BOUNDARIES. We'll go through all of the different elements in the next few videos, but ownership clarity and decision rights are O and D in boundaries. When all three things are in place, ownership clarity, decision rights, and escalation paths, delegation works because the structure exists to hold the delegation. When none of them are in place, you become the ceiling of your own business. Not because you're doing anything wrong, because the structure underneath you has holes. You didn't fail at delegating. The system failed you, and you failed your systems. And systems, unlike trust, can be super easily built. Okay? So let's circle back to the founder, or probably you. This person is you. This person is me. This person is every client I come across. Back to the person who told me, I tried delegating. I tried it. I tried. It doesn't work. What that client was actually describing was a handoff without ownership clarity, without decision rights, without escalation paths. She handed someone a task and wondered why it kept coming back and why it was only like 60% done, because there was no structure in place to hold it anywhere else. It had to come back to her. And that is not a character flaw. That's a missing blueprint. And now you have it. Hooray. That's it. When you're asking for help, you need to ask for help clearly. How do you ask for help clearly? This is what I need. This is who owns it. This is what you're allowed to decide on your own. This is when you should ask for my help. This applies in business and it applies at home. Wives, you want your husband to do some cooking if you're the main cook in the house. You ask for that exact help that you need. So if we take our three things, ownership, clarity, decision rights, escalation paths. Hey, husband, you are in charge of making dinner tonight. That is ownership clarity. You own dinner tonight. We can eat absolutely anything except for beef. That's the decision rights. You're allowed to decide anything except for beef. If the fridge is empty, come back to me and ask what I think, and we'll work on it together. That's the escalation path. What I did there was I enumerated the instances in which you would have to ask for help or in which you would have to pause. Husband who's making dinner, if he chooses to make pasta and tomato sauce, and we have both pasta and tomato sauce, at no point in that entire process should ever come back to me with any kind of question, because the ownership clarity was there. He knew that he was responsible for dinner. The decision rights were there. You can make any decision that doesn't include beef. And the escalation path was there. If it isn't in the fridge, you can ask me for help. Otherwise, figure it out. Home, self, business, it all works the same. Next episode, we're talking about scope creep, which is the quiet profit killer that most founders don't notice until they are 3 months of free work deep and wondering why the numbers don't add up. That one is next. We're going to get a little bit personal on that one with some of my personal experiences. In the meantime, if you are ready to stop being exhausted all the time, the boundary leak audit will show you which leak is hitting your business hardest right now. It's free. It takes less than 10 minutes, and the link is there for you in the show notes. And if you're really ready to stop patching holes and to start building the actual structure, a strategy call with AV is where we do that. There's no pressure. There's no sell. It's just clarity. The link is in the show notes for you too. Squirrels, remember, you are allowed to ask for help. You should ask for help. You're allowed to delegate. You should delegate. As long as you do it properly within a system, you'll be just fine. You're not broken. The system is. Let's build a better one. Bye, squirrels. See you next time.